Hello everybody, this is Daniel with Peace and Plenty Farms and also Daniel's Bullion Coins. So we're out here in the garage. I've been working on the K30 dump truck and my daily T100. And I had an excellent question somebody asked me in the comments. I was chatting with somebody and I said, wow, that's really a good question and something that I've been wanting to talk about. And that is the getting to be able to fund a homestead. Now, this person was talking to me about, the comment was, I was just scrolling through the comments, and the comment was, what's the cheapest way to buy silver? What's the cheapest way to buy silver? And I think I found the cheapest way to buy silver and produce an income at the same time. So this is a two birds with one stone video. How to buy silver the cheapest and how to work 1 day a week and support your homestead. And it comes down to there's only really one option, and that is to start some type of business on your own. You have to be in business for yourself. You have to provide a service for a fee, some sort of product or that people are willing to pay for. And I was willing to do anything. I'm going to back up and start at the beginning. I've been in some type of business my whole life. When I was young, 16, 17, actually really 14, 15, I started an antique business. And I started that, I rented a space for $10 a day on the outside of an antique shop. I would set up a table and I would sell bottles that I had dug up from a farm that we lived on. There was an old farm, and it just was coincidental that I had a metal detector and I was digging up these bottles. And so for $10 on Saturday, I would rent a space at this antique center and I would sell these bottles. And I went on, and that grew and grew, and I eventually rented a space inside the antique mall and did some things in there with my parents, and that was a lot of fun. And this is one example of starting out small. $10, rented a space. Now, of course, that was back in the 80s, actually 70s. But I went on from there and started a car business. And basically, I just worked on cars right out of the garage, right out of my parents' barn. And then eventually, some friends of mine let me use their barn. And then I started paying them rent and built that up. Eventually, I bought a tow truck and I just started hauling cars to the dump and worked my way up, made way more money than any of my friends did. They were flabbergasted at what I was making. I think the average wage was $1.65 at McDonald's, and I could haul an old car into the landfill and get anywhere from $50 to $100 for it. And that was after I'd stripped the tires and the battery and the gasoline and any good parts, motors, transmissions, fenders, whatever I could sell. And I got known around school for having, gasoline, batteries, tires, and my friends would come buy these parts from me. And people would give me the cars. I would be riding on the school bus or driving myself to school, and I'd see an old car sitting in somebody's yard. I'd go up there and ask them, hey, can I have that car? And they were happy to get rid of it. And I would, like I said, harvest all the parts and haul the rest of it for scrap metal. If I got $50 or $75 a day, or maybe 2 cars in 1 day, hauled to the scrap yard, I was making more than my friends made all week, or really 2 weeks working at McDonald's. So I just started out really small in those two situations and worked with what I had. So time went on. Went to college, tried that for a little while. Really wasn't my thing. So I got out of that and started in construction. And it wasn't long before I had enough money to buy some nail guns. They had just come out with these new pneumatic nail guns. And it's a long story where that money came from. I'll put that in another video. Borrowed some money and bought these guns and went into business for myself. And it was no time at all before I had 4 or 5 vans running around with about 15, 16 guys working for me. And that worked out really good. Now, there was an economic collapse in, I think, 87, 88. I call it the read my lips, Bush, no new tax collapse. And I left the area and went to Georgia, and eventually I started another business down there. Flat broke. So this is the fourth or fifth time I'm starting with nothing, and worked my way up. I think I started out at $6 an hour as kind of the lowest man on the totem pole, and just slowly worked my way up, and bought the tools that would give me the most amount of productivity, and continued to build. And eventually the contractor wasn't reliable, and I filled in, and the builder was happy, and then eventually the builder had a falling out with the developer, and the developer took me under his wings, and then he and I started building houses together, and then he turned that thing over to me, and I ended up being the sole owner of the company. And at the time of my divorce, it was $2.3 million. We owned 12 houses, and they were rentals that we had built, and then turned around and rented them out. And so it built from $6 an hour just in 8 to 10 years to a couple $1 million. All of that I'm saying is to start with what you have and to start small. Everybody thinks you've got to go out and rent a $2,000 or $4,000 a month rental place, and you've got to have all these tools, and you see somebody else in business and they've got this, they've got that, and how I can never have that kind of equipment or that type of tools. But I started all of mine flat broke, and I just bought what I needed, worked with what I had, and built from there. And the truck that I was driving when I started that construction company, I think I paid like $500 for that truck. And all I had was my nail belt and a hammer and a tape measure. But I got up early. I went to work. I worked hard all day, 6-7 days a week, long days, and built a very successful company. So fast forward to 2008, 9, 10, and we have the housing collapse. And I was telling my friends that I was in business with that this wasn't going to last long, because we were making outrageous money. He and I were bringing in money. I can't even tell you how much we were making, because you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe the money we were making during the housing boom of from 2000 to 2010. But we were raking it in, and we were living high. I mean, I had the Harley, the sports car, the fancy truck, the Toyota Sequoia, the house, all of that. Vacations, every other weekend we would go somewhere and spend money and have a good time, do visits with the kids. They were 700, 800 miles away. It was no problem. We had plenty of money during the housing boom. But I knew it was going to end. I said, this is going to end. Well, I was getting close to 50. I was right about 50 years old, and I knew that I couldn't keep doing the construction end of it. I had the knowledge, I had the capability, but my physical ability was starting to wane. It was starting to slip away, and it was obvious I needed to get into something else, because I was working for Home Depot and I was installing doors and windows, and I was doing it totally by myself. Every French door, every slider, every cabinet, kitchen cabinet, every countertop I put in totally by myself. I never had any help. And I made a lot of money, because I didn't have to worry about the help stealing, breaking, pulling knives, guns on me like they did when I was in the construction business. But I don't want to get off track. I want to tell you, the point of this is you have to be in business for yourself, and you have to start out with what you have. If the only thing you can afford is an axe and a sledgehammer and a maul to split firewood, start splitting firewood and start selling firewood. Bundle it up in small bundles and take it to your local hardware store or 7-Eleven and sell it in front. See if they'll let you sell it in front of there. You've got to find something that you can produce that's gonna make money for you. Well, let me fast forward to getting out of the housing business, and like I said, I knew economically we were headed for trouble because of the amount of money we were making. The whole economic, borrow money, ATM your equity in your house, close a loan at 105, 120% of the value of the house. I knew none of this was going to work. So I started looking into gold and silver, and I didn't know anything about it. I was born in 64, so I knew silver came out of our currency in 64. I graduated high school in 82, so I knew the copper came out in 82. That's about all I knew at 50 years old. But I knew we were headed for economic trouble and our currency was being inflated. And so I started to study, started to look in all the people, Lynette Zhang, Mike Maloney, Jim Rickards, all those people on the internet. I started reading their books, I started studying, and I said, silver's where it's at. And one of the things that catapulted me into the coin business was I took some silver out to the farmers markets, whether it was bars or coins or rounds or 90%, and just went around asking the vendors what would they take for their food, for their ammo, tractor parts, all that type of stuff. And they all took the 90%. Dimes, quarters, halves, Morgans, peace dollars. So I realized then it wasn't about bars, it was about coins. And so I decided to start a coin business. So I didn't have anything. When I closed down the construction business, I had piled up all the tools. I lived in Georgia. I piled up all the tools in the middle of the floor in the garage, 3-car garage. I had actually already been to the pawn shop. I had loaded them in the back of the truck, everything piled high in the back of the truck, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of tools. And I went to the pawn shop, and it was a circle driveway, and there was a pickup truck in the driveway ahead of me, and the owner was just flagging him by. When I pulled up, he said he hadn't sold a single tool in 6 months, and that he wasn't buying any tools. That's how bad the economy was during the housing crisis. So I went back and piled it all up in the middle of the floor and ran several ads in the paper or whatever it was, Craigslist, and to get somebody to come out was next to impossible. Some guy finally came out to the house to look, and I was ready to sell. He bought that entire pile of tools for $100. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of every type of thing you can imagine, and he got it for $100 because I was out of the housing business. I knew it was over. I was going to take what I could get and just hunt on. So came out of there with some money. It wasn't I wasn't completely broke, but boy, I had to sell my 57 T-Bird, sell the Harley, sell the van, sell the truck, sell her car, sell the furniture, sell the tools, whatever we could get, because everybody was liquidating. It was a terrible time. Took what we had and moved back to my hometown, which is in the Northern Virginia. We're in Fredericksburg, Virginia now, and I decided to start the coin business. So I rented a space in a antique mall that it essentially was like a kitchen cabinet, like you typically see two doors, two cabinet doors that open up and they hang on the wall. I think this cabinet, let's say it was 4 foot wide and 4 foot high, and it had clear glass doors on it. And there was a set of steps, sort of like I'm sitting on right here. There was a set of steps. There was only four or five steps high. And I rented that cabinet for $75 from this antique mall. And I decided to sit on the edge of those steps and talk to anybody that would come in about coins and what I had read and what I had studied. And people found it fascinating. And they would come back and they would ask me questions and they would talk to me and they would buy some of my coins. And I started to make contacts with people who wanted to sell. They had a collection that they had inherited, it had been left to them, and they just didn't know what to do with it. They didn't want to walk into a pawn shop. I tended to come in contact more with women at the antique store, where a pawn shop is more of a man's place. So these women that were browsing in the antique store, oh, I've got this collection, my brother left it to me, my husband left it to me, older women. And so they would come in and I would make fair offers, but really great buying opportunities for a prepper. And that slowly, grew and grew. I rented more space. I finally got a display cabinet. I added more area, and eventually I built more display cabinets. Now I did have to invest some time and money. I did lose some money because inventory was hard to come by. I actually had to put my collection out on display that I had paid, full retail for, put my coins out, and I had to sell those really sometimes at a loss, because I was trying to drum up business. I was trying to create a Rolodex. I was trying to create a name for myself, hang signs, do advertising, all that type of stuff. Spent a lot of time sitting there on that step, but it grew because I treated people right, and I would talk with them about the economy, and they would ask questions. If they asked me a question I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know anything. I just jumped in. I knew that silver came out in 64. I knew copper came out in 82. And I knew I was a bullion guy, and I knew I was concerned about the currency. And I had read these books. As far as being a numismatic coin guy, I was not. If someone asked me something, I had to look it up real quick. I had to Google it. I had to learn to know how to get the answer quick for them. And I may have looked funny, because I didn't know what I was doing. But I grew, the business grew, and now I only work on Saturday. Ingrid, my sweet wife, she covers it. Nathan, my oldest son, he helps me cover it during the week, and I can work on the farm now. Now, it took about 2 years. It takes time. It's not going to just snap overnight happen. But I took what I had, which was the silver and the coins and the bullion that I had bought, from liquidating the house and the cars and the Harley and the T-Bird and the furniture, all that type of stuff. I had bought, a collection. So I just put it out on display and sold it. And then as people sold stuff to me, I was able to recoup what I had done. Excuse me. So I said all that to tell you how you can have a homestead and be a bullion dealer. Two birds with one stone story. You've got to be in business for yourself. You cannot do it working by the hour. If you've got an hourly job, you are never going to beat. You're actually backing up because of inflation, the depreciation of the dollar. Soon there's going to be negative interest rates, so you're not going to be able to do it. You've got to be in business for yourself. You're going to have to invest the time, 2 years, 5 years, I don't know, to get your clientele. You need the Rolodex. You need the contacts of people. So go ahead and get started on your business. If you're working a 9-to-5 job, start your business in the evenings and weekends. I've done it 5, 6, 7 times in my life. I'll tell you another story real quick. One time I had a bunch of guys working for me, and we had vans. We were in the construction business, and one of the guys took the van down to a job that was quite a ways away with all the tools in it, had everything in it that the construction that my company owned at the time. And he just left it down there that evening and rode home with a friend and left the van down there at this job site. Well, that evening, it was completely emptied. Someone stole all the tools out of it, everything. I mean, my nail bag, my hammer, my tape measure, everything was stolen. Generator. You need a generator to build houses. You don't have power when you show up. Well, I borrowed $100 and bought a chainsaw and a tape measure and a pencil. And I took the next job, framing up a house, and I cut the lumber with a chainsaw, and we built that house. As soon as we got our first check, we bought a few more tools. We got the next check, we bought a few more tools. So I started with absolutely nothing, but I got the contract to build a house, and I didn't have a tool to my name. But I went out and bought a chainsaw because we didn't have a generator. So it wasn't going to do any good to buy a skill saw and an extension cord because we didn't have a generator. But the chainsaw would run off of gasoline, mixed gasoline, and do the cutting we need. So we would mark everything out, mark a whole bunch of stuff out. Then I'd start the chainsaw, run around, cut everything. Then we would nail it all together and mark another round of things. And I'd run around and cut it all. And then we just kept doing that. And on Friday, when we got our first check, we started buying tools and started getting ourselves up on our feet again. So you have to work with what you have. You have to start out small. And you have to put in the time and the energy. It's not going to just happen. It's not going to just fall in your lap and jump off the screen. It's going to take time. Well, I just thought I would throw that at you. I wish I could tell you more, but maybe in another video. Thanks for watching.